to continue with Baba's words from the call, invariably muffled in the cloak of the infinitely true humility of the Ancient One. The divine call is at first little heeded, until, in its infinite strength, it spreads in volume to reverberate and keep on reverberating in countless hearts as the voice of reality. Strength begets humility, whereas modesty bespeaks weakness. Only he who is truly great can be really humble. When, in the firm knowledge of it, a man admits his true greatness, it is in itself an expression of humility. He accepts his greatness as most natural and is expressing merely what he is, just as a man would not hesitate to admit to himself and others the fact of his being man. For a truly great man who knows himself to be truly great, to deny his greatness would be to belittle what he indubitably is. For, whereas modesty is the basis of guise, true greatness is free from camouflage. On the other hand, when a man expresses a greatness he knows or feels he does not possess, he is the greatest hypocrite. Honest is the man who is not great, and knowing and feeling this, firmly and frankly states that he is not great. There are more than a few who are not great, yet assume a humility in the genuine belief of their own worth. Through words and actions, they express repeatedly their humbleness, professing to be servants of humanity. True humility is not acquired by merely donning a garb of humility. True humility spontaneously and continually emanates from the strength of the truly great. Voicing one's humbleness does not make one humble. For all that a parrot may utter, "I am a man," it does not make it so. Better the absence of greatness than the establishing of a false greatness by assumed humility. Not only do these efforts at humility on man's part not express strength, they are, on the contrary, expressions of modesty born of weakness, which springs from a lack of knowledge of the truth of reality. Beware of modesty. Modesty, under the cloak of humility, invariably leads one into the clutches of self-deception. Modesty breeds egoism, and man eventually succumbs to pride through assumed humility. The greatest greatness and the greatest humility go hand in hand, naturally and without effort. When the greatest of all says, "I am the greatest," it is but a spontaneous expression of an infallible truth. The strength of his greatness lies not in raising the dead, but in his great humiliation when he allows himself to be ridiculed, persecuted, and crucified at the hands of those who are weak in flesh and spirit. Throughout the ages, humanity has failed to fathom the true depth of the humility underlying the greatness of the Avatar, gauging his divinity by its acquired limited religious standards. Even real saints and sages who have some knowledge of the truth have failed to understand the Avatar's greatness when faced with his real humility. Age after age, history repeats itself when men and women, in their ignorance, limitations, and pride, sit in judgment over the God-incarnated man who declares his godhood, and condemn him for uttering the truths they cannot understand. He is indifferent to abuse and persecution, For in his true compassion, he understands. In his continual experience of reality, he knows. And in his infinite mercy, he forgives. God is all. God knows all, and God does all. When the Avatar proclaims he is the Ancient One, it is God who proclaims his manifestation on earth. When man utters for or against the Avatarhood, it is God who speaks through him. It is God alone who declares himself through the Avatar and mankind. I tell you all with my divine authority that you and I are not we, but one. You unconsciously feel my Avatarhood within you. I consciously feel in you what each of you feel. Thus, every one of us is Avatar in the sense that everyone and everything is everyone and everything at the same time and for all time. The Big Mass Darshan program was really only the beginning of what was later described as 3 incredible weeks with Meher Baba. There were many other days which seemed equally incredible, just incredible. It was so wonderful being with him. Coming to India was the culmination of many years of longing and inner striving to be near to him. Being in his presence day after day brings about a radical change in one's inner being. Baba himself is unlimited, infinite consciousness. He is unlimited light, unlimited truth, unlimited reality, unlimited love, the ocean of divine love. Simply being in his presence, we were exposed to these very truths, this very reality, enveloping and permeating and just filling us with well, mostly his divine love. Baba goes on to say in the call, there is nothing but God. He is the only reality, and we all are one in the indivisible oneness of this absolute reality. When the one who has realized God says, I am God, you are God, and we are all one, and also awakens this feeling of oneness in his illusion-bound selves, then the question of the lowly and the great, the poor and the rich, the humble and the modest, the good and the bad, simply vanishes. It is his false awareness of duality that misleads man into making illusory distinctions and filing them into separate categories. I repeat and emphasize that in my continual and eternal experience of reality, no difference exists between the worldly rich and the poor. But if ever such a question of difference between opulence and poverty were to exist for me, I would deem him really poor who, possessing worldly riches, possesses not the wealth of love for God. And I would know him truly rich who, owning nothing, possesses the priceless treasure of his love for God. His is the poverty that kings could envy, and that makes even the King of Kings his slave.
So many times I have thought about you in the darkness of my room all alone. And now it seems that all of my thoughts of you, it seems that somehow they have grown. For you mean so much more to me, so much more than I had ever known. For you're all that is in life. Yes, you're all that is in life. You're all that is in spirit, it lies inside of me, and it runs through the blood in my veins. I guess that's why all that I know in my life, it's that I will see you again. Well, if you're in me, well, if I'm in you, then for everything it must be the same. Then you're all that is in life. Then you're all that is in life. You're all that is. You're all that lives. You're all that
Know,
is.
therefore, that in the eyes of God, the only difference between the rich and the poor is not of wealth and poverty, but in the degrees of intensity and sincerity in the longing for God.